Welcome to the deep dive, where all hell breaks loose when SEO meets AI. If AI is not in your SEO stack, neither is page one.
That statement, it perfectly captures where we are right now in digital marketing. It's not just some new tech shift, it's an existential one.
Right, and that's why our mission today is so important. We're going to be analyzing the rapid and really disruptive impact of Google's AI overviews, the AIOs.
Exactly, the AIOs. We're looking at their effect on both organic search, SEO, and the paid search world, PPC.
And we're going deep into the data here. The point is to show that the core metrics that really built the entire search economy, things we all treated as gospel.
Things like click-through rate,
Yeah,
CTR.
exactly, CTR. We're arguing it's officially broken. It's largely obsolete.
And when we say broken, we don't mean it needs a little fixing. We mean it's fundamentally and I think irreversibly changed.
And this dive is so critical for you, the listener, because the traditional search engine results page, the SER as we know it, it's gone. It's been replaced by what we have to call an integrated answer engine. We are not looking at a list of links anymore. We're looking at a final product.
Right. It's the destination, not the map. And if you wanted to see what that acceleration into a zero-click world looks like, well, this is it. It has happened at an absolutely breakneck speed.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And this transition, it forces a pivot that researchers are starting to label the Great Decoupling.
And that's the key concept. It's the framework you need to understand this new environment, the Great Decoupling.
Okay, let's unpack that, because Great Decoupling sounds, a little technical, maybe a bit academic.
Yeah.
But it describes a very real, very human problem for anyone in marketing. What exactly are we decoupling here?
We are decoupling brand influence and authority from the direct traffic session, from the click.
Okay.
Historically, the entire model of search marketing was simple, right? You win position one, you get the click, that click starts a session on your website, and that session leads to a conversion.
That was the chain of command, the whole funnel.
That was the whole chain, exactly. But now, with the AIO, a user searches for something, and Google just delivers the answer. A generative response, the AI overview, that synthesizes your content and your competitor's content and answers the query right there on the search page.
So your content wins the influence battle.
Yes, you get the implied endorsement from the AI because you're cited as a source, but you lose the actual traffic. You lose the session.
So your visibility and your authority are now separate. They're decoupled from your reliance on that immediate click.
That's the Great Decoupling.
Wow. The idea that you can win the battle for authority but still lose the war for traffic that's a terrifying thought for anyone who measures success by website visits.
It is. And the data that defines this shift, what we're calling the data that changes everything, it confirms we are not just talking about some emerging trend. We are staring right down the barrel of a full-blown CTR crisis.
A crisis is the right word for it.
It's here. We've got solid aggregated benchmarks from extensive analysis. We're talking millions of impressions, thousands of high-volume queries, all conducted between 2024 and 2025. This isn't subtle. It's the new normal.
Okay, so let's get into the numbers.
All right, zero-click searches. So, queries that end without the user ever clicking an organic or a paid link, they now account for an overwhelming 60 to 63% of all searches.
60 to 63%. Let's just let that sink in for a second. That means nearly 2/3 of all questions asked to Google are now answered right there on the results page.
Satisfaction in SERP. It's not an adjustment. For a lot of traditional publishers, that is a commercial catastrophe.
And it gets even more acute, right, when you isolate the queries where AI overviews are actually present.
That's where it all falls apart.
Yeah.
When an AIO is triggered, the traditional metrics simply collapse. For queries where an AIO is actively generating an answer, organic CTR plummeted by a massive 61%.
61%.
Yeah. And that's a drop from an already pretty modest average of 1.76% all the way down to a nearly invisible 0.61%.
That's devastating. That's content creators and publishers just having their content summarized and consumed without any compensation in the form of traffic.
It's a huge problem. And what's really crucial for you to understand is that the paid side, the PPC environment, it suffered an even steeper crash.
So if you were paying to be at the top, the AIO just kind of negated that entire investment.
Pretty much, yeah. Paid CTR for queries with AIOs crashed a staggering 68%. It fell from an average of 19.7% down to just 6.34%.
That's almost a total wipeout of what used to be the most effective ad placement.
It is. The user's attention is just intercepted by that big generative block of text before they even see the ad.
But here is where it gets really fascinating to me because it shows the scale of the user behavior shift. It goes beyond just Google's AIOs.
Yeah.
Even on queries without an AI overview, we still saw huge CTR drops.
We did, and this points to a wider, maybe existential problem for the old SRP model. Organic CTR on those queries fell 41%, and paid CTR still fell 20%.
So what does that suggest?
It suggests users are just clicking less everywhere. They have new habits, they have alternatives that give them answers faster. We're seeing users pivot really aggressively to other platforms.
Like using Microsoft Copilot or even just going straight to ChatGPT?
Exactly. I mean, ChatGPT has over 800 million weekly active users. That's a huge number of people getting answers outside of Google's domain entirely. Or you look at a research-focused engine like Perplexity, which processed 780 million queries in May of 2025 alone.
So there's this parallel ecosystem that's also accelerating the zero-click reality, which weakens Google's whole grip on the click itself.
The battle is now on two fronts. You're fighting Google's own AIOs, and you're fighting the fact that users are just going elsewhere. It's a fundamental change in the digital world.
Which leads us directly to the paid search battlefield. It's become a minefield of displacement and volatility.
A minefield is a good way to put it. And it's happening because of one really simple mechanical problem: physical displacement. The AIOs are literally shoving the ads off the page.
So ad visibility loss in its most literal, brutal form. It's a real estate problem.
It's absolutely a real estate problem. AIOs are these enormous blocks of generative text. And we have to talk about the device divide here, because on desktop, AIOs consume a huge amount of screen space. We're talking an average of 11,110 pixels vertically.
And how does that compare to mobile?
On mobile, it's much smaller, only about 617 pixels. That's an 80% difference in physical size. And that huge presence on desktop just shoves everything else paid and organic way down the page, often below the fold.
So what's the top line number on that? How often are ads just gone?
The top line reality is brutal. Paid ad visibility is lost approximately 25% of the time across major sectors, simply because the AIO appears above them.
The 25% loss of top-of-page visibility. That's a massive instability factor for any ad campaign. You can't budget when a quarter of your best placements might just be invisible.
You can't. And that 25% average, it hides huge volatility across different industries. Which brings us to this idea of industry stratification. Who are the winners and who are the losers here?
Okay, so let's start with the winners. Who's doing okay?
The sectors that are showing high resilience, what we're calling the leaders, are the ones with immediate high transactional intent. The user is basically one click away from buying something.
So like travel, retail.
Exactly. Travel, energy, financial services, specifically things like credit card applications or mortgage rates, and retail. These sectors consistently keep their ad placements above the AIOs more than 75% of the time.
And why is Google protecting them?
Well, because Google's main incentive is still monetization, right? They seem less willing to interrupt an immediate conversion path with a long informational summary. If you're searching for best flight deals to Rome, you want flight deals.
You don't want a history of Rome's air traffic.
Precisely. So Google recognizes that high commercial intent, and it adjusts the AIO placement, keeping the paid listing on top.
Which, conversely, means we have a clear outlier.
Mm.
The sector that's in a real crisis here is healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare is getting hit the hardest. And it's a fascinating case of policy overriding profit. Healthcare is a your money, your life, or YMYL industry.
Right, so Google's algorithms are super strict.
They're heavily policy-driven. They prioritize EEAT experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. They want authoritative, verifiable information above all else.
And that means?
It means that in healthcare, a brutal 64.6% of ads appear below the AIO. That policy decision just demolishes ad visibility, wiping out almost 2/3 of the above-the-fold space for paid marketers.
I have to jump in here because this is a critical question. If your goal is to get clicks, a 64.6% loss is a total failure. But if your goal is to protect users from buying snake oil, isn't Google maybe applying this policy correctly?
That is the essential conflict of the modern SRP.
Right. Are paid marketers in these sectors fighting a policy that's actually good for the user, even if it hurts their bottom line?
From a consumer protection standpoint, you could absolutely argue that it's a necessary firewall. From an advertiser's perspective, though, it demands a complete strategic rethink. You can't just bid your way to the top anymore.
So that's the other volatile sector.
The other one showing major instability is gaming. We've classified that as the volatile sector.
And gaming is literally a coin flip, right?
Hmm.
A 50-50 split on ad placement.
Correct. It's a highly volatile environment, which just reinforces the need for dynamic, data-driven bidding strategies that can pivot in real time based on the query, the device, everything.
A 50% chance of being below the fold means you have to be much more careful with your budget on those big generic terms.
Right. Absolutely. And it means you have to shift quickly towards that informational intercept strategy we're going to talk about.
Let's pivot to the funnel compression idea. The old notion that AIOs are just for top-of-funnel informational stuff seems to be dissolving pretty fast.
Oh, that distinction is absolutely dissolving. AIOs are moving aggressively into shorter, high-volume commercial searches, the conversion-focused queries.
Where are we seeing that most acutely?
In sectors like finance and retail, which you'd think would be purely transactional, in those areas, AIO presence climbs dramatically up to between 79% and 84% on longer comparison queries.
So things like best credit card for travel rewards or Dyson versus Shark vacuums.
Exactly those. The user journey is getting cut short because the AI isn't just giving background info anymore. It's providing product discovery, comparison, even preliminary decision-making data right there in the SRP.
So they're skipping the first 3 steps of the old funnel.
Precisely. And this funnel compression is now being directly monetized through ad integration. The fact that Google started putting search and shopping ads directly into the AIO feature in May 2025, I mean, that's monumental. It changes the entire auction.
Okay, so explain the strategic implication there. How does an ad end up blended inside the AI summary?
Well, on desktop, the AIO panel might have a dedicated space for 1 or 2 highly relevant paid listings. But here's the critical hurdle. Your ad doesn't just have to win the traditional auction based on bid and quality score.
There's another layer.
There is. It also has to demonstrate relevance to the content of the AI overview itself. The AI is judging whether your ad is relevant to its own summary.
That is a fundamental connection. That links your paid visibility directly to the quality of your organic content, your GEO performance.
It's the forced merger of SEO and PPC. Finally.
So if your landing page doesn't have the EEAT signals, the structured data, the authority to back up what the AI is saying, your ad might just be disqualified.
It could be disqualified from the most valuable placement inside the AIO, no matter how much you bid. This means your organic team is now directly responsible for the success of your paid team. If SEO fails, PPC fails. They have to operate as one unified revenue team now.
And this is where we saw some of those new, maybe controversial features pop up, like the request competitive quotes in local services ads.
Right. That LSA feature is a perfect double-edged sword. It illustrates the attribution chaos perfectly. It let users request quotes from multiple businesses through the AI interface without ever visiting a website.
Which probably increased lead volume like crazy.
It did, dramatically. But the controversial part was that the leads were often lower quality. The user hadn't done their research on the provider. And attribution tracking what a user does after the click became almost impossible because there was no initial click.
So you have to constantly test these things to make sure you're not just getting inflated, low-quality lead counts that screw up your models.
Exactly. Which brings us to the most counterintuitive opportunity in all this data, the informational intercept strategy.
Right. The idea that bidding on long informational queries can actually pay off, even with an AIO present.
This is the strategic inversion we're seeing. In industries like automotive and gaming, where the purchase is high value or the research is deep, longer informational queries, 4 or more words sometimes get you better ad placement above the AIO than the short commercial terms do.
And the gaming data on this is just startling. It's a clear roadmap.
It's the most extreme example. For short, 1 or 2 word gaming queries like new RPG, ad visibility above the AIO was basically 0.0%. But for descriptive 7 to 9 word queries like best open world sandbox game for beginners 2025, ad placement above the AIO jumped to 100% visibility.
100%.
Yeah.
And we see a similar thing in automotive.
We do. The ad above AIO rate jumps from around 22% for short searches to over 74% for 4-word specific research searches.
So why? Why the reversal? Why is the long informational query suddenly better for ad placement?
We think the AIO is acting as a sophisticated qualification filter. For those complex long-tail terms, the AIO summarizes all the background research for the user, the comparisons, the definitions, whatever they need.
Okay.
So the user who reads that summary digests the facts and then scrolls down to click a paid ad. That person is signaling extremely high qualified intent. They're past the casual research phase.
So the ad intercepts a highly qualified researcher who has already been educated by the AI.
That's the theory. And it means you should be bidding aggressively on these mid to upper funnel informational queries in these specific sectors because your cost per qualified conversion might actually be lower.
This requires a massive adaptation for PPC teams. They have to move beyond just relying on CTR.
They absolutely have to. First, they need to shift budget allocation away from CTR as a primary performance indicator. The modern PPC team has to focus heavily on performance max optimization.
Right, PMax, Google's AI-driven campaign structure. How does PMax specifically counter this AIO threat?
PMax is great because it uses machine learning to find high-value users based on audience signals, not just keywords. Since AIOs make keyword signals so unreliable, PMax uses your first-party data like past purchases, time on site, conversion value to bypass the traditional SRP and find users all across the Google ecosystem.
It's the ultimate defense against keyword volatility.
It really is. So PPC teams need to implement these robust machine learning bidding strategies, use their first-party audience signals for targeting, and diversify their channels. Push significant budgets into video, display, and discovery to capture users outside that volatile search results page.
But if we're relying on all these complex signals, we need really good data to prove ROI. Which brings us to the attribution chaos and the fact that Google Search Console, the foundational tool for SEOs, is now a catastrophic blind spot.
It's a huge problem. GSC's tracking is costing businesses crucial insight into the biggest shift in search history. The data model is it's incompatible with this zero-click reality.
So what's the core issue?
The core issue is that GSC treats every single AI overview impression as a regular impression. So when an AIO shows up for your keyword, those impressions get merged right into your total GSC impression count.
Which gives you that inflated impression count without the clicks to match, leading to those impossible client conversations.
Exactly. The most frustrating conversation in an agency right now is, why did my impressions go up 40% but my clicks only grew 5%? Is our content bad? And the answer is the AIO. But GSC gives you no filter, no dimension, no way to isolate it.
And the most damaging gap.
The most damaging gap is that GSC provides zero tracking data when your site is successfully cited as a source in an AIO. That citation dividend we talked about is completely invisible.
That is just astonishing. You can be one of the 3 to 5 sources Google's AI chooses, gaining this massive brand authority and trust. And Google gives you zero data in its own tools to prove you won.
So reporting becomes guesswork. ROI analysis is incomplete. And budget decisions like, should we create more content like the stuff that's driving citations, suffer from this profound data blindness.
You waste weeks optimizing for CTR when the real success signal, the citation, is totally hidden.
And you can't prove the value of your generative engine optimization work to the C-suite.
Which means we have to immediately adopt new metrics for a zero-click world. If clicks don't measure influence anymore, what are the replacement KPIs that actually matter?
We have to move to metrics that measure influence and trust. First and foremost is AI share of voice.
Okay, what is that?
It quantifies how often your brand is cited, mentioned, or summarized in AI-generated answers compared to your competitors. And that's across all platforms, Google AIOs, ChatGPT, Perplexity. It's a measure of how dominant your content is in that answer layer.
Do we have an example of that?
We do. In one big study, Bank of America had 32.2% visibility in key banking queries, which showed a commanding share of voiceover competitors like Wells Fargo or Chase.
So then the next metric would be citation frequency, just the raw count of how often you're chosen as a source.
Right. And this is so critical because of the immense value in that citation dividend. The data proves this isn't just a theory. The payoff is real. Cited brands earn 35% more organic clicks and 91% more paid clicks than uncited competitors on the exact same queries.
Wait, let's unpack that mechanism.
Yeah.
How does winning a citation and losing the immediate click end up leading to a huge increase in future clicks?
It's that psychological shift we mentioned, implicit trust transfer. When Google puts your URL in that little hyperlink source box in the AI summary, users see it as an editorial endorsement by the platform.
It's not just a link, it's a recommendation.
Exactly. They see the authoritative answer, and when they look for the source to verify it, they're drawn to that cited URL. That perceived authority dramatically increases the chance they'll click your URL later in the SRP or even in a future search.
So it proves AIO success does drive traffic, but it's indirect and there's a time lag.
Right, which means we need new tracking metrics to capture that. Things like impression to answer rate, assisted conversion value, cost per visible impression, and engagement quality score that looks at post-citation behavior.
And this complexity brings us right to the paradox of position one, the ultimate example of why old metrics are failing.
It really is. Every SEO for the last 20 years has chased position one.
Only position one. So
Yeah.
what's the paradox?
The paradox is this. When an AIO is present, the traditional #1 organic rank can have a significantly lower CTR around 2.51% than position #2, which clocks in at 5.76%.
More than double. Why?
Because the AIO sucks up all the immediate visual attention, when a user finishes with the AIO summary, their eye often just skips past the link right below it, position 1, because it visually blends in with the noise above it.
But position two.
Position 2 might be the first visually distinct, clearly organic result they focus on after making that mental shift.
So you're no longer optimizing for position one. You're optimizing for the optimal first click opportunity below the AIO, and that might be position 2 or 3.
It forces a change from aiming for rank to aiming for placement utility. And since GSC fails us completely here, I can't tell you if an AIO was there or if you were cited. Marketers are forced to use custom solutions.
For those with the resources, API automation seems like the only scalable way to go. Can you walk us through the technicals on that?
Sure, since you can't rely on GSC, you have to use third-party SERP tracking APIs. These are essentially automated web scrapers. They index the SERPs for your target keywords multiple times a day. And crucially, they provide structured data, usually in a JSON format.
And what's in that data?
Everything you need. The AIO presence rate, the actual content of the AIO, citation tracking, so you see which URLs were cited, and precise positioning data relative to the AIO.
And the benefit of the API is speed and integration.
Exactly. You can push that structured data instantly into tools like Google Sheets or BigQuery for deep analysis. It lets you monitor your citation share of voice in real time. This is how the sophisticated agencies are handling the zero-click world. It's expensive,
Right.
but it's scalable and accurate.
But for those without a huge budget or an engineering team, the alternative is the much more laborious manual tracking process, the human web scraper.
This is where you really feel the data gap. It is manual, repetitive, exhaustive labor. You have to use incognito windows, use VPNs to simulate different locations because AIOs are so localized.
Clear your cookies constantly.
All of that. You do weekly checks, take full-page screenshots to document when AIOs appear, and then you diligently log all the cited sources into a spreadsheet.
And how long does that take?
For a modest portfolio of, say, 100 high-value keywords tracked across just 3 major cities, that process takes about 15 hours a week.
15 hours of manual labor just to get the basic data that Google is hiding from you. That just perfectly underscores how critical this information is.
And how high the barrier to entry has become for accurate intelligence. Which brings us to the only real solution, the Content Authority Imperative.
Right. Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO.
Exactly. The attribution chaos just reinforces one truth. Your foundation has to be unshakable. If the click is gone, the entire purpose of your content is now to be the unimpeachable, authoritative source that the AI chooses to cite.
So GEO is the future, but it's not about throwing out SEO, is it?
Not at all. GEO is an expansion. It's built entirely on the foundation of high-quality traditional SEO. You still need strong organic rankings because the AIs have this extreme trust bias. The data shows it. 92.36% of successful AIO citations come from domains that are already ranking in the top 10.
If you're on page 2, the AI is not going to cite you.
It won't. But GEO is that extra optimization layer that specifically prepares your content for AI extraction and synthesis.
And the prerequisite for being cited, especially in those sensitive YMYL sectors, is deep authority, starting with EET.
Absolutely. AIOs are designed to prioritize authority. Unlike old-school SEO, where you might win a click with a clever title, AIOs reward deep, demonstrable trust. So you have to attribute your content to verifiable subject matter experts.
That means clear authorship, bios with real credentials.
Certifications, professional experience, all of it. You need to build domain authority through consistent brand mentions, and of course, quality backlinks are still a foundational trust signal.
You also mentioned freshness is key.
Yes, the AI loves current, accurate information. It's programmed to look for the most recent statistical confirmation. So that means relentless content updates. Any statistic, any market data that's over 12 months old has to be updated and re-timestamped.
So once you have that EEA foundation, how do we make the content technically optimized for AI extraction? This is where structured data, schema markup, becomes non-negotiable.
That's exactly the right way to put it. Structured data gives the AI machine-readable context. It tells the AI, this is the answer to the question, or this is the step-by-step guide.
So things like FAQ schema.
FAQ schema is incredibly effective. You're giving it direct question and answer pairs that the LLM can just lift and integrate into a summary. You're basically handing the AI the exact citation-worthy answer.
And for tutorials and guides.
How-to schema is essential, and you have to make sure your core entity markup author organization publish date schema is everywhere to reinforce those freshness and credibility signals. The AI is trying to establish trust, and confirming the author and date via schema is critical.
Let's dive into the blueprint for creating this citation-worthy content with the CSQ-AVL framework.
Right. The CSQF framework is a practical model for content teams. It stands for citations, statistics, quotations, authoritativeness, and fluency.
Okay, let's break those down, starting with citations and statistics.
So, citations means proactively linking out to high authority, trusted external domains. AI models heavily prioritize links to places like Wikipedia, major academic journals, or even high engagement sources like Reddit for consumer insights. By linking out, you're signaling that your research is verifiable.
And for statistics.
It's not enough to cite common knowledge. You need to embed dynamic data points, unique charts, or proprietary research that acts like a magnet for the LLM because it can't find that specific data anywhere else. Unique stats are far more citable than general facts.
And then we have the more human elements, quotations and authoritativeness.
Quotations means including direct, attributable expert insights, ideally from the expert you've listed in your EET schema. These are short, impactful lines the AI can easily pull out to add weight to its summary. Authoritativeness is about the writing style itself. It needs to be confident, declarative, and supported by those expert bios.
And finally, fluency. What does that mean for GEO?
Fluency is the technical structure. The content has to be scannable for both a human and an AI extractor. That means clear HTML, hierarchy, well-structured H2s and H3s that ask questions, and scannable formats like bullet points or comparison charts.
And structurally, you have to lead with the answer.
Yes, you must lead with a direct, definitive 50-70-word answer to the primary query. The AI needs that concise summary right at the top.
But this whole shift, this optimization for AI, poses a serious challenge to publishers and their brand voice.
The risk of homogenization is huge. AI overviews strip away brand voice, tone, connection. All that carefully crafted content gets blended into what one analyst perfectly called a flavorless soup of information. Users get the facts, but they lose the brand connection, which hurts loyalty.
And the risk of misinformation or hallucination is a serious liability, especially in those YMYL sectors.
It's a critical risk. These AI systems can hallucinate, just generate incorrect facts. And if your site is cited as the source for a wrong AIO, even if the AI made the error, it can seriously damage your reputation.
So what's the pivot for publishers facing this?
You have to focus on content the AI can't easily summarize or replicate.
So what does that destination-worthy content look like?
It means proprietary data, unique first-party research, detailed interactive case studies, proprietary calculators, complex tools, things that require user interaction or contain data. The AI can't just crawl and synthesize directly. You have to establish your site as a destination, not just a citation source.
This next section has one of the most counterintuitive data points in our entire dive. It requires a complete reevaluation of the mobile-first mindset.
It really does. We're talking about the huge disconnect between the fact that mobile is over half of all web traffic, yet over 90% of AI-powered search referrals come from desktop devices.
That is a fundamental reversal.
A profound reversal. We have to look at the platform data to see how deep this divide is. Look at the pure AI platforms. ChatGPT sends 94% of its referral traffic from desktop. Perplexity is at 96.5% desktop. Even Google Gemini is at 91% desktop referrals.
Google Search is the only exception, right? It's still a mobile majority.
It is, at 53% mobile, but that's largely because it's the default browser on hundreds of millions of phones.
Yeah.
If you're optimizing for the future of AI search, you're optimizing for desktop.
And we know why mobile AI referrals are so low. It's not a lack of use, it's a technical friction point. The in-app preview problem.
Yes. Explain that for the listener.
On desktop, you click a citation link. The browser takes you straight to the source, one click, one referral. But on mobile, AI apps like ChatGPT often intercept that first click. They show you a content preview inside the app itself.
So to get an actual referral, you have to tap a second time on a little open in browser button.
Exactly. And that added friction, that double tap requirement, it just tanks the referral conversion rate compared to desktop. The mobile user is satisfied with the preview, and the visit is lost.
We also see clear intent differences that favor desktop. Desktop users tend to be doing more complex, long-session research, high-consideration purchases, technical deep dives.
Things that lead to longer sessions and signal higher conversion value.
Exactly. Whereas mobile users are often looking for quick, immediate answers and are satisfied with the summary, a zero-click outcome.
And Google's AIOs themselves behave differently on different devices, which reinforces this whole divide.
They do. We said earlier that desktop AIOs appear 39% more frequently and take up 80% more screen space. That larger presence encourages deeper engagement. But mobile AIOs appear 3 times more often for e-commerce queries, treating mobile shopping as quick discovery, not deep research.
So the traditional mobile-first approach could actively hurt your visibility for the highest value research queries. If you're selling B2B software, you have to invert your strategy.
This is the critical takeaway. You need a device-specific content strategy. For desktop optimization, you focus on content that supports long research sessions. Comprehensive guides, over 2,500 words, rich with unique data tables and technical documentation.
And for mobile optimization, the strategy is brevity.
Extreme brevity and scannability, FAQ pages, list-based articles, quick reference guides, and those concise 2 to 3 sentence answers delivered high on the page. You need a layered architecture. Fast answers for mobile, deep detail for desktop.
And the business justification for focusing on desktop is all about revenue quality.
It's purely about profitability. Desktop AI search referrals generate significantly higher business value. We're seeing average order values 3 to 5 times higher and conversion rates 4.2 times higher than mobile AI sessions.
So if you're marketing a high-consideration product, a car, a SaaS subscription, the fact that 90% of AI referrals for that research come from desktop is where your budget needs to be.
You're optimizing for the quality of the dollar, not the quantity of the click.
This entire deep dive just reveals this irreversible shift. The click, which was the currency of the digital world for decades, is just crumbling.
And the key strategic shift is clear. The goal isn't maximizing clicks anymore. It's maximizing citation authority and share of voice in that generative answer layer.
Brands have to unify paid search and generative engine optimization. Organic authority is now a prerequisite for high-value paid placements.
It is. So the immediate actions for you, the listener, are clear. Implement device-specific bidding. Focus aggressive budgets on those long-tail informational queries where the AIO is a qualification filter.
Relentlessly update your content for freshness and EEAT signals. And crucially, invest in the custom tracking tools and APIs you need to see the visibility that Google is hiding from you in GSC.
The future of search is here. Google expects AI mode to become the standard interface. AIOs already reach 1.5 billion users a month. But you have to remember the ecosystem is diversifying.
Right. You have to prepare for ChatGPT and Perplexity dominating desktop referrals and for new conversational ad formats.
The decline in CTR isn't a temporary dip. It's an irreversible change in user behavior, driven by that desire for an immediate answer.
So we'll challenge you with this one provocative thought. If 61% of organic clicks are gone forever, what percentage of your marketing strategy is dedicated to winning the implied high-value endorsement of the AI itself?
The competition is no longer for position 1 on the SERP. It's for the position of trusted source to the world's most powerful answer engine. That trust, quantified through citation frequency, is the new currency of search, and it's the only path to sustainable long-term revenue.